So, Agito Uprising's first boss Volk has just released in 2 difficulties. I've yet to clear the Expert difficulty as that fight is drastically different from Standard, so this guide will only cover the Standard difficulty, and I'm planning to make a guide for Expert once I know more about the fight. However, there are a number of mechanics that carry over between difficulties, so if nothing else this guide should serve as a good starting point. For starters, Volk inflicts sleep, stun, and poison, although only sleep res and stun res are important. However, both of them are important in a team composition, as I'll get into later. Unlike Hyrekan trials, there's no highly damaging opening blast, and no resistance wyrmprint, so bring your best DPS builds for the fight. There are a lot of other guides out there about those, but if you show up with one of my how to play builds, I might just have to leave. Next, Volk has 2 new mechanics, as represented by icons under his health bar. The first one is Life Drain, which, as it lists in the description of the fight, allows him to heal based off the amount of damage he does to players who are not under the effects of the other new mechanic, Plague. The effect of Plague is that it lowers your affliction resistance, so sleep res characters can get slept and stun res characters can get stunned. Some of the affliction inflicting attacks that hit my team members while they were plagued didn't afflict them though, so either it doesn't entirely remove the resistance or the hits do not inflict 100% of the time. Either way, while plagued, players and Volk, who can plague himself, will have a small ring around them similar to High Jupiter's static charge. The indicator above the player shows how long before the effect ends, and once it does, any players in the ring will be affected by Plague again. Additionally, healing causes Plague to wear off faster. As far as I can tell, Plague is only inflicted by the move Pestilent Wind, the Arena Fog from the move Resentment, and the end of other plagues spreading by proximity. Volk will also periodically give himself strength buffs, a total of 3 times at 10% each before the fight is out. On a final note before I get into the attack breakdown, I was able to stun Volk with Arctos' Dragon skill. Volk's first move, Pestilent Wind, opens the fight, inflicting Plague. Aside from some damage, that's all it does. Next, Volk has 2 basic attacks, a dash and a spin attack. While they seem simple and can be iframed, they deal a lot of damage and can easily combo you into other attacks if there's presently more going on. Volk choreographs both attacks before they happen. From what I've seen, a dash will always target the nearest player. Before a dash, Volk will spread his arms and rear up, and there will be an audio cue. Spin attacks hit all around him, and players need to back away or iframe. Spin attacks are preceded with Volk tucking his arms and an audio cue. Next, Volk has a ranged Trident Purple attack that I'm going to refer to as Trident Claws. I think this attack always targets the furthest player head on. The claws will persist, then target a player and move back across the arena, similar to his next attack. This next attack is Ravenous Claws, where Volk will head to the center of the arena and summon 8 claw traps out to the exterior of the arena from the center. Following this, 4 of the claw traps from 4 different corners of the arena will target a player and move across the arena to the other side, attempting to pass through their position. With the 8 claws, this occurs twice. I have yet to determine how the target is selected, as I've seen it target 2 different players, the same player twice, and even dead players. Be aware, as the purple warning area will disappear before the claws have finished moving across the arena. Next up is Resentment. Volk will create a fog that covers a large portion of the arena. From my testing, entering this fog inflicts minor damage, Plague, and you will also be unable to see the following attack patterns on the ground inside of it. Volk will proceed to launch 6 attacks similar to the second phase of Ravenous Claws, where 4 red attack lines will target a player and move across the arena to strike them. After the 6th attack occurs, the fog lifts. The first time this phase is run, Volk will stand still, but the second time he'll pair other attacks with it. I'm also still unsure how targets are selected for the red attacks. Next is Underdog's Scheme and Underdog's Revenge. In Underdog's Scheme, Volk will summon 4 nodes spaced around the arena. If left alone, these will explode, covering the entire arena and dealing massive damage in the move Underdog's Revenge. These are very easy to deal with though. They are dispelled upon contact with the player and inflict one type of resistance. Green ones inflict sleep and red ones inflict stun. The player with the appropriate resistance should make contact with them to disperse them. You only need to disperse one to have a safe zone, but not only does breaking more increase the safe zone area, doing so will grant a skill charge buff that charges half of your skills. It's important to note that contact with the node will cause it to explode, and players with the other resistance caught in this explosion will get afflicted. Additionally, anyone caught in the explosion regardless of resistance will get skill charge. Nodes will alternate around the arena, but as far as I can tell, the layout of the nodes will always be the same in one of 2 different layouts, with sleep nodes in the top left and bottom right, and stun nodes in the bottom left and top right. Underdog's Revenge will always be announced, even if all the nodes have been destroyed. Finally, there's Imminent Illness. This is a purple chaser style attack that will follow all players individually, forcing everyone to split up to avoid overlap. Upon landing, it will deal moderate damage and has a chance to inflict poison. We'll know later what the actual chance of infliction is, but as a guess, I'd say the base rate to inflict is about 20%, which aside from the damage is another reason to not overlap with other players, as you'll be hit twice or more. That covers all the moves that Volk uses in Standard, so next I'll run through the fight and break down the order in which which he uses these. Bear in mind that the exact order will vary a little bit depending on when you break. Also, this should include the entire fight, as my first clear had one of the 4 players die early on, and we finished with 2 seconds to spare. First up is the opening quote-unquote blast, Pestilent Wind, that inflicts plague. Split up if you have Halloween Lowen, because he's probably going to heal the plague away very quickly. As he uses this move, Volk will teleport and reappear on a player. The group I ran with was really confused about how he chooses the target, because he always appeared on our Valentine's Ezolith, even when we split up to the 4 corners of the map. Upon reappearing, he will use a spin attack, then he will do a charge, then another spin attack. He will then launch a Trident Claws, followed by another dash, then a spin attack. Volk will then begin his first Ravenous Claws phase. As each wave of claws chooses their target, he will do a dash. Volk will then begin his first Resentment phase and close off the back of the arena. Red attacks will target a player and launch a total of 6 times. During this phase's first run, Volk will not launch any separate attacks. At the end of the Resentment phase, Volk will give himself a 10% strength buff. Next up is Underdog's Scheme. Remember not to get close to any of the nodes of the other affliction. Volk will do 2 Trident Claws, which will persist and then return after they stop the first time. As the second set picks its target, Underdog's Revenge will cause any remaining nodes to explode. It was at this point in my Deathless run that we broke, which only skipped a dash and a spin attack. After a break, Volk continues with a Pestilent Wind, an Imminent Illness, and an Underdog Scheme. While the nodes are active, he will begin a Ravenous Claws phase as well, and just as last time, will do the dashes as the sets of claws pick their targets. He will then do another Pestilent Winds, before detonating the nodes with another Underdog's Revenge. Immediately after, Volk will teleport away and reappear on a player, launching into a spin attack, followed by a dash, and another dash. He will then use Imminent Illness again, then apply his second 10% strength buff. Then he'll move into a second Resentment phase. In addition to the normal attacks, the fog will immediately be followed by another Imminent Illness. The second, fourth, and sixth red targets will be accompanied by Trident Claws that will not re-target players. Volk will apply his third 10% strength buff. Next up is Underdog's Scheme, followed very quickly by Pestilent Winds. It's important to note that when breaking nodes while plagued, you are at least partially susceptible to all afflictions. Volk will teleport away and use Underdog's Revenge shortly after, so my recommendation is to have a sleep res unit pop the bottom right node and wait until the others detonate. Make sure no one is standing inside the detonation range when you do so. I recommend the bottom right as it allows you to see the rest of the field more easily. Volk will then teleport back onto a player and use a spin attack, then an Imminent Illness, then a dash, then a spin attack. Volk will then initiate another Ravenous Claws phase, complete with 2 dashes as before. Volk will then repeat the previous Underdog's Revenge phase, where it will immediately be followed by a Pestilent Winds and an Underdog's Revenge. I recommend the same tactic be used. Volk will then teleport back in onto a player and use a spin attack, followed by an Imminent Illness. By now, you will either clear or time out. And that's it. The fight has a lot of dodging, and players with longer skill animations will have to remember when purple attacks are coming, but aside from that, the fight is pretty simple. Do remember that Volk heals from hitting you, and his spin attacks and dashes hit hard. I plan to release a guide on Expert once we know a little more about it, and when I've hopefully cleared it for myself. In the meantime, here's my first clear of Standard that took the full 5 minutes.